Imagine you're the most powerful person in the known world. The legions swear loyalty to you. The Senate waits for your approval. Your face is on coins. People cheer your name in the streets. And then one day you look at your horse and think, you know who would be great in government? This guy. Not a joke. Not a metaphor. An actual horse, dressed up, pampered, and allegedly considered for a seat of power. Today on Royal Idiots, we're exploring the story of Caligula, the Roman emperor who started as the empire's golden boy and ended as a cautionary tale about what happens when absolute power meets paranoia, isolation, and a court full of fear. Welcome to Royal Idiots, the podcast where we explore the most powerful bad decisions in history. I'm your host, Melissa, and today we're looking at the life of Caligula. Before we get to the horse, we need to set the scene, because Caligula didn't rise in a vacuum. He rose in Rome, and Rome is not just a city in this story. It's a machine. A machine that runs on tradition, reputation, military force, and a constant low-grade anxiety that someone is always plotting something. To understand Caligula, we need to understand the Roman Empire in the early 1st century. Augustus had built a new system. Rome still pretended to be a republic, with consuls and a senate and all the old titles, but the real power increasingly sat with one man, the princeps, the first citizen, who was absolutely not a king, except, yes, he pretty much was. That balancing act created a weird political culture. On paper, the Senate mattered. In reality, the emperor mattered. And the people inside the system had to perform loyalty constantly, because the line between trusted advisor and executed traitor could be as thin as a rumor. And then there's the family. Because in Rome, politics wasn't just about policy. It was about bloodlines, marriages, scandals, inheritance, and who could claim closeness to the late, great Augustus. The imperial household was basically a palace-sized pressure cooker. Our main character, Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, who history remembers as Caligula, was born into the heart of that pressure cooker in 12 CE. His father was Germanicus, a war hero adored by the army and beloved by the public. If Rome had a celebrity general, Germanicus was it. And Caligula, as a little kid, was often around soldiers. The nickname Caligula came from Caligi, little military boots. Essentially, people called him Little Boots. It sounds cute, and that's part of what makes the story sting. He begins as the empire's mascot, a child people smiled at. But behind the smiles, something darker was forming. Germanicus died when Caligula was young, and the circumstances were suspicious enough to fuel years of gossip and political tension. Caligula's mother, Agrippina the Elder, and his brothers became entangled in the deadly politics of the next emperor, Tiberius. Tiberius is one of those figures who makes every room feel colder. He was capable, experienced, but increasingly paranoid, withdrawn, and brutal. He also wasn't the kind of emperor you wanted to disappoint. Under Tiberius, accusations of treason became a weapon, and elite families learned to survive by keeping their heads down and their mouths shut. Caligula's family didn't manage that. His mother was exiled. His brothers were destroyed by the system, either imprisoned, driven to death, or eliminated. Caligula, meanwhile, survived. And that's the first big question that hangs over his whole life. How does a young man make it through a political purge that wipes out his closest relatives? The answer, as far as we can tell, is that Caligula learned early how to perform. How to hide what he felt. How to say the right thing. How to smile and flatter and stay useful. He spent time on the island of Capri with Tiberius, basically living in the emperor's orbit, where every interaction was political and every day could be a test. So when we talk about Caligula later as a ruler, keep that in mind. He didn't grow up in a stable home. He grew up inside a regime where fear was normal, where love could be weaponized, and where survival often meant playing a role. Now, how does that kid become emperor? By the time Tiberius was old and isolated, Rome needed a successor. The empire couldn't look like it was stumbling around without direction. Caligula had the most valuable political asset there was. A famous name tied to Germanicus, the people's hero. He also had something else. He was young, and after years of grim, suspicious rule under Tiberius, Rome was desperate for a fresh start. When Tiberius died in 37 CE, the transition happened quickly. Caligula became emperor at about 24 years old. And at first, it looked like Rome had hit the jackpot. The early days of Caligula's reign were popular. This is important. He wasn't immediately a cartoon villain twirling his mustache. He made gestures of goodwill. He honored his family's memory. He signaled that he wasn't going to rule like an isolated tyrant. People celebrated. The Senate breathed. The public felt hopeful. Imagine what that must have felt like in Rome. After years of tension, you suddenly have an emperor who seems energetic, present, generous. Someone who appears to love the spotlight and, maybe, love the people back. And then something changed. And this is where the story gets complicated, because historians have debated the why for centuries. A few months into his reign, Caligula suffered a severe illness. We don't know exactly what it was. There are theories ranging from infection to neurological issues to poisoning to sheer exhaustion. But the sources agree on the outcome. After that illness, his behavior seemed to shift. Now, let's be careful here. Ancient historians loved sensational stories, and later writers had plenty of reasons to portray Caligula as a monster. Some accounts are hostile, some are exaggerated, and almost all were written after he was dead, often by people aligned with the elites who had reasons to hate him. But even with that caution, a pattern emerges. After the illness, Caligula's rule becomes sharper, crueler, stranger, and more openly hostile to the Roman elite. And this brings us to the moment that defines our story, the idiot moment, not because it's one single day, but because it's a chain of decisions that turn a promising reign into a nightmare. Instead of doing the boring, stabilizing work of emperorship, building alliances, managing the Senate, keeping the army happy, watching the treasury, Caligula leaned hard into personal power and humiliation politics. He seemed to take the existing Roman system, the pretend republic with real monarchy underneath, and say, fine. If we're going to do this, let's stop pretending. That sounds bold, maybe even honest, until you remember that the Roman political class lived on pretense. The Senate's dignity wasn't just pride. It was part of how the whole empire functioned without constant civil war. When an emperor publicly smashed that dignity, he didn't just insult some old men in togas. He destabilized the political culture. Caligula reportedly demanded forms of honor that made Romans uncomfortable. He pushed the idea that he was more than a first citizen. Some sources describe him flirting with divine status in ways that felt aggressive rather than ceremonial. He leaned into spectacle. He leaned into fear. And then there were the executions and accusations. Under Caligula, the atmosphere of suspicion returned with a vengeance. Some people were killed for real plots. Others, it seems, were swept up because the emperor needed money, or because he wanted to terrify rivals, or because someone said the wrong thing at the wrong dinner party. Let's talk about money for a second, because it's never just madness, it's also budgets. Caligula's early generosity cost a fortune. Add in enormous games, lavish building projects, and a court that expected constant display, and suddenly the imperial finances are under strain. When a ruler needs funds quickly, and the system is built on elite wealth, you can guess what happens next. Confiscations. Fines. Accusations that conveniently lead to someone rich being declared guilty and dead. That's not just cruelty, it's a business model. A terrible one. But Caligula didn't just squeeze the elite. He also seemed to enjoy mocking them. And this is where the horse story enters the chat. According to later accounts, Caligula adored his horse, Incitatus. The horse enjoyed luxuries that would make a senator jealous. Fine stables, extravagant attention, and a level of treatment that was, frankly, the point. Some sources claim Caligula intended to make Incitatus a consul or a senator. Did he actually try to do it? Formally? We can't prove it. But here's what matters. The story spread because it felt plausible within the atmosphere of his reign. In a world where the emperor publicly humiliates the Senate, "My horse could do your job" isn't a random joke. It's a political message. And if it was a joke, it was a joke told with imperial power behind it. That's not comedy, that's domination. There are other famous Caligula moments too. Stories about extravagant bridges, theatrical stunts, and bizarre decisions that made people wonder if he was performing power, losing touch with reality, or both. One of the most dangerous patterns was his relationship with the military. Emperors survive on the loyalty of the legions and the guards in Rome. If the soldiers think you're strong, you live. If they think you're unstable or insulting or reckless, the ground shifts fast. And Caligula managed to unsettle multiple groups at once. Senators who felt humiliated and unsafe, wealthy families who felt targeted, and military men who feared they were serving a ruler who might get them killed in some impulsive scheme. So what happens when an emperor builds a kingdom out of fear? Unsurprisingly, this decision had consequences. First, the political ecosystem rotted. People stopped telling the truth. Advisors became flatterers. The Senate became less a governing body and more a stage for forced applause. And when you replace honest feedback with performance, you get worse decisions, faster. Second, the violence spiraled. Real conspiracies became more likely because people felt they had no other options. In a stable system, you wait out a bad leader. In a terror system, you start whispering in hallways. Third, public perception became unpredictable. Romans loved entertainment and spectacle, yes, but they also valued order. Constant drama at the top can look exciting until it starts to threaten your safety and your economy. And behind all of this was the central theme of Caligula's story: power and paranoia feeding each other in a loop. If you believe everyone is out to get you, you strike first. When you strike first, you create enemies. When you create enemies, you become more paranoid. And around it goes, until the palace feels like a trap. Eventually, it ended the way these stories often end in Rome. Not with retirement, not with resignation, not with a peaceful transfer of power, but with a knife. In 41 CE, after less than 4 years as emperor, Caligula was assassinated. Members of the Praetorian Guard and others in the court took part. The plot wasn't just about one man being disliked, it was about a regime that had become unbearable for the people closest to it. And the aftermath tells you everything. The empire didn't collapse, but it did scramble. The conspirators needed a replacement fast, and they landed on Claudius, Caligula's uncle, a man many had underestimated. Rome, once again, tried to stabilize itself by finding someone who could keep the machine running. So what was Caligula's legacy? Despite the chaos of his reign, Caligula left a lasting mark on history, mostly as a symbol. His name became shorthand for the nightmare scenario: the ruler who has unlimited power and uses it to indulge impulses, punish enemies, and turn government into theater. But there's a tricky part here. When we talk about Caligula, we're looking through sources written largely by members of the elite or by later historians who depended on elite accounts. They had motivations. Caligula humiliated the Senate, and the Senate got the last word in the historical narrative. That doesn't mean he was secretly great. It means we have to hold two ideas at once: something truly went wrong, and the story we've inherited is also shaped by politics. Even so, the broad lesson stands. Caligula's reign shows how fragile the early Roman imperial system could be. It was built on performance: an emperor pretending not to be a king, a senate pretending to share power, everyone pretending the old republic still mattered. Caligula bulldozed the performance, and the system responded the only way it knew how: by removing him. And culturally, he became immortal. The mad emperor archetype, the decadent tyrant, the man who would appoint a horse to office, these images have outlived the detailed facts. His legacy is a warning label on absolute authority. Now it's time for the royal idiot verdict. So how should we judge Caligula? On the royal idiot scale, I'm giving him legendary idiot. Not because he was the only cruel emperor Rome ever had, and not because every wild story is definitely true, but because his approach to power was catastrophically self-defeating. He took a system already tense with suspicion and made it more volatile. He targeted the people who controlled wealth and governance without building a stable alternative. He replaced trust with fear, and then acted shocked when the knives came out. Even if you interpret some of his behavior as political trolling, like the horse story being a deliberate insult, using the entire empire as your personal stage is not strategy. It's a countdown. Next time on Royal Idiots, we'll explore the story of Nero, the emperor who fiddled as Rome burned. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the podcast and share it with a fellow history fan. And remember, in politics, When your inner circle starts clapping a little too hard at every joke, it might not be because you're funny. It might be because they're afraid.